Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Today, another game review, and I will be talking about the Monday Night Football matchup between the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants. And what is there? Where do you even start with this? The Lions played okay in this one, but this Giants team at the minute, this offence, I know it's early, but it's broken. It's been broken. It was broken at the end of last season. That has absolutely carried on in the early going of this one. And as good as that defence is, I just don't know where they go from here. They need some significant improvement early, to come along next week. Otherwise, they're going to fall way behind in the NFC East, and the season could get really, really ugly, especially with some of the additions. Ended up 24-10 for the Lions. Frankly, it could have been worse. Lions offense. Again, the Giants defense is a top unit. It's the only reason these two games haven't been blowouts. The Giants offense is just so bad at the moment. They can't even stay on the field. So if you've watched these before, done a few reviews at this point, no real statistical talk in this, just what I saw with my own two eyes during my first viewing of the game, and then another second viewing just to confirm some of the bits and pieces. Analysing what I thought both teams' game plans looked to be, how I think they did with those, and then what I expected to see from these two teams moving forward. And we'll start with the elephant in the room, that being the Giants' offence. Much like what we saw last week, the return of a slightly hobbled Odell Beckham Jr. not enough to fix what's broken here. Frankly, I think even if he's fully healthy, there's just not enough here. This run game, I don't think Paul Perkins is the most talented back, but I don't think he's the problem here. The offensive line is just an abomination. 2 weeks into the season, it is between them, the Panthers and the Seahawks, I think. Three NFC teams that are all built fairly similarly, with great defences and some quarterbacks that they're hoping can make up for these deficiencies. Turns out you really can't. Eli, I'm not sure if he's done. It's hard to say. With better protection, I'd say yeah, because the way he's throwing the ball, it is not good enough. He was let down by some drops in this game. Brandon Marshall I don't know what's going on there. He doesn't look particularly quick, but he's just had some bad drops as well. He's got to be. You've got to be concerned about him if you're a Giants fan. He looks done at this point. I'm not going to say he is, but these performances are not what you expect when you bring in a player with his pedigree. Evan Ingram had some catches in this game, and Beckham, he wasn't himself. He was limited. You could see that it wasn't targeted nearly as much as you would expect. And once again, no run game, no ability to convert on third down, constant pressure. Eric Flowers was once again a turnstile. I keep hearing people say, put him at right tackle, that might fix what ails him. I don't think it will. You've got to be able to pass protect on that side as well, and at this point I think he just needs to be benched. His confidence must be at an all-time low. There was a play in the game where he just got beat by Answer for a sack, and then on the next play he just got his hands on him, and just there was nothing to it. Just had no effect on Answer, and Answer's a good player, but you've got to be better than that. And this interior also struggling to open up any kind of running lanes. Eli was under constant pressure in this one. That's why I find it hard to judge whether he threw some balls that were off and made some poor decisions, but some of it I think just stems from how bad this group is. That he feels like he's got to get things going. There are a couple of floaters that could easily have been intercepted. Some inaccurate passes under pressure. He's not mobile enough to deal with this kind of pressure like Russell Wilson can for the Seahawks. and make plays. I say that as though the Seahawks offense has looked even remotely competent to this point, but still, yeah, they're relying on Eli to bail them out, and he's not the kind of quarterback that can. The receiving group has, with the performance Brandon Marshall's had so far, has been massively underwhelming. You can't really argue with the Beckham injury. That's just a bit of misfortune. But Ingram's a rookie. You can't rely on him. It was a really nice play for the touchdown. I'll give the Giants that. That was sort of the only real drive they managed to get going in this game. But it's just so many 3 and outs. It's just constant third and longs because the team can't run. They were more aggressive in this game, trying to go deep and intermediate. And frankly, they just weren't able to, through a combination of pressure, some iffy wide receiver play, and some bad quarterback. It was a disaster on every account. Hard to even assess the Lions' events properly over these first 2 weeks, because going in, I thought they were going to be one of the weaker units in the league. They've had 2 good performances, but they have gone up against what look like 2 of the most broken offenses in the NFL, in the Cardinals and the Giants. So clearly, the Giants' game plan here, it is hard to even assess. The only thing I can say, it looked like they wanted to be a bit more aggressive. I think they wanted to utilise Ingram heavily in this game, and they just weren't able to do it because, once again, no run game and no protection. So the Lions, they kind of had things easy for them. They were able to just sit back in coverage because you can get the pressure with 4. Ansel was just unstoppable for them in this game. There was pressure up the interior. Sean Robinson's had a hot start to the season for them. Jared Davis, he looks very active against the run. Still worry a little bit about him in coverage, but he looked good last night. And the secondary just wasn't really tested. So, yeah, at the minute, I think that is the game plan. You play this Giants team, you've just got to sit there in the protection and dare these receivers to beat you, and just know your pass rush is going to get there. It's a really simple game when you can't pass protect, when the opponent can't pass protect, and that's how it turned out today. Lions, I don't think they did anything particularly special on the defensive side of the ball. Secondaries look good in these 2 games, but again, Eli and Carson Palmer have been worrisome to say the least. So definitely looking forward to seeing the Lions next week, see what we've got with this defence, because they play against the Falcons. So that'll be a much better test. We'll move on to the other side of the ball, because really is hard to come up with too much analysis when a team looks that bad. The Giants D, there's the positive. They once again looked really good. Don't let the 24 points fool you. One of those scores was a big punt return. Matthew Stafford had a worrying stat line. And again, I don't talk stats, but he actually played well in this game. It really does. This is another aspect to this, actually. Stafford has been historically a very aggressive player. He toned it down last year, and yesterday he wasn't in the slightest, outside of a couple of deep shots to Kenny Golladay. And I think there was one to Marvin Jones as well. But you'd expect that with Janoris Jenkins out. That was a big loss for the Giants. Didn't really make too much of a difference in this one, though. But, Stafford didn't have to do too much. And I think, again, the way the Lions attacked this game suggested to me that they knew early on in this game that the Giants weren't going to be able to put points up. They managed to get a lead, and from then it looked like they were attempting to run the clock out. I saw a lot of Amir Abdullah in this game. He had one of his best performances as a pro. He looked pretty explosive. This Giants run defense still looks good, but the interior, I thought, for the Lions offensive line looked really sharp in this one. Managed to open up some holes. Abdullah looked quick getting through them. Theo Riddick also had a couple of plays. I think the run game was a massive, massive positive for the Lions in this one, because they haven't had one in a long time, and this Giants team is very, very effective in that regard. It looked to me like the Lions took advantage of what the Giants were looking to do. I think the Giants were very confident they'd be able to stop the run without putting too much of an emphasis on it. Game planning wise, they set up to stop the aerial attack of Stafford. They did, and frankly, again, their game plan could have worked if they just had a semblance of offense. Very little going for Stafford through the air, but once again, he just kept it controlled and didn't make any bad decisions. Was let down by a couple of deep balls that really could have inflated things, but did a good enough job just keeping the chains moving, getting them into good situations. I've got no doubt he checked into a lot of those run plays based on coverages he saw, because this Giants team was sitting very, very deep on them, which is not what I would have expected heading into the game. Paid a lot of respect to these Lions receivers. And, I mean, once again, this Giants offense just changes everything. So, yeah, we'll go back to the Giants. Yeah, their secondary played a good game, and especially when you're missing your number one corner. Landon Collins was all over the place. I thought he looked really good. The defensive ends, they managed to have an impact in this game. Just weren't quite able to get to Stafford. Weren't really given a huge amount of opportunities. As I say, it was a very run-heavy game plan in the end. A lot of short stuff, which you can understand against this secondary and with the way the Giants were set up. It enabled the Lions to just control the clock, control this game, and they at no point did it look like they were going to lose this one, and I think that's reflected in Stafford's very controlled performance. So again, don't let those numbers mislead you into thinking that Stafford played poorly in this one. He was perfectly fine. Considering the circumstances, you could argue he played well. But yeah, Lions run game really came out and impressed me. I'm not sure if they necessarily planned it that way. I think that may have been an in-game adjustment, seeing what the Giants were looking to do to stop them, and it basically just worked. Once again, you saw the Giants defense just wore down at the end of this game. Giants able to, the fourth quarter, once again, a team able to run all over them, and I still think the Giants are one of the top 5 run defenses in the league if they get to play a normal looking NFL game. But at the minute, the Lions, clearly they saw what the Cowboys did to the Giants last week, and I think they just mirrored that game plan. They have the personnel to do it on the defensive side, and they were able to mimic it on the offensive side to some degree, which is a bit of a surprise considering the personnel on the line. With the injury to Taylor Decker, I thought that would be an issue for them. It didn't really show up. The Giants just unable to play to their perceived strengths at this point, and looking forward for them, things are pretty grim. So moving on, the Lions, I still don't know what to make of them. They're 2-0 and they've looked pretty... They managed to pull both games away in both games in the fourth quarter, having kind of meandered their way through the vast majority of the rest of the game. But you can only beat what's put in front of you. I don't think they've shown too much, which I think may benefit them next week when they play against the Falcons. But that's going to be a real test. I'm really looking forward to that game. We'll get to see whether this Lions team is for real. Although potentially, with so many injuries in Minnesota and Green Bay, the door could be wide open for this team to make a push for the division early in this season, get themselves in the driving seat. Next week, they will be playing... Oh, no, next week they've got the Falcons. So, yeah, that one's a big one. We'll get a good idea where they are, especially on the defensive side. I think the offense is quite good. They'll get better when Decker gets back. But, after that, the Vikings, that looks like it could potentially be a big game. And then they've got the Panthers. So next week we'll get to learn about their defense. And then I think the following 2 weeks we'll get to see how legitimate the offense is. So three tough games. We'll see where they are at the end of it. If they're 4-1, then you can probably feel damn good about this team heading into the rest of the season, because the NFC North schedule is not the toughest looking at this stage in time. When we're looking at the Giants, I mean, they look to be a team in real trouble at this point. The Eagles have looked good so far. The Cowboys, I think, are going to be reasonable. The Giants have to win next week. If they fall to 0-3, their season looks like it's done. However, I think it's going to be ugly. They've got the Eagles and that Eagles defensive front, which looks as good as advertised thus far early in the season. So it's just damn difficult to see them coming out of that one. Then after that, they play the Buccaneers, whose defence also looked great in week 1. So, and then the Chargers, and they've got Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. So I think things are looking really bad for this Giants team. They've got to try and fix something. I think they've got to make some big adjustments to this offensive line, because at the minute it is not good enough. Eli Manning hasn't been good enough. And this receiving group, this offense as a whole, they've been an absolute disaster zone. And I think at the minute they look like a damned easy team to game plan for. Just don't beat yourself, and it's hard to see how you lose against them at this point in time. So it's ugly. It's real bad. And I thought this team was going to be a legit wildcard NFC East contender, but alas, they couldn't look further from it at this point. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on this one. As I say, hard to read too much into this game. At the minute, the Giants are that much of a mess that it's changing everything. You can't even assess a game in a natural as you should. It's just it's bizarre. They have to be better. I mean, it's hard to imagine things getting. Actually, no. I've seen things get worse for teams in this position. It certainly could happen. It's bad. Lions, next week, big test. We'll know a lot more about that team, I feel, after that one. So there you go. Let us know, what do you think? Any really angry Giants fans out there? Any Lions fans? Happy to say I told you so. I said this team would be all right this year. I still think you guys don't get too excited. Wait until you play some legitimate teams, and we'll see where we are. Much reason to be happy if you're them, especially with Abdullah's performance yesterday. But what did you guys think? Comment section below. Cover Zero Facebook page. Find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. Be great to talk some ball. As always, if you've enjoyed this, there's plenty more game reviews. There'll be more game previews going up. You can check out the Cover Zero Roundtable, which is our podcast / internet show, whatever you want to call it. That should be going up tomorrow or Thursday morning, depending how long it takes to upload. We'll recap every game from Sunday. We'll preview every game from week 3 and talk about some other stuff. So that should be a laugh. Really hope you check that out. I think they've been really enjoyable, and there's plenty of other stuff on the channel. You enjoy it, like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. It'd be greatly appreciated. And thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. It's been a pleasure as always. Have a great evening, and go Bucks.